Well, gentlemen, since I didn't know you were coming to last minute, I think there is two people that didn't. One person might come who had registered, so I prepared them a binder. And if you guys, after today's class, you go, hey, you know what, I want to do this, and I'll make you guys a binder next week. Okay. But for now, don't write in this one, these two, but take a look. Maybe just the first few pages. You guys grab any spot, we'll be sitting. You can sit against the wall. If you really want a chair, get some bolsters. I'm just gonna cool down the room a little bit, maybe. And so how did you meet Ricardo? We met at volleyball, right, Ricardo? Yeah, we met at volleyball when I did volleyball. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's great. Beach volleyball or indoor? Okay. I know I need to put in my schedule my calendar. It's just with some like doing that 3 times a week, like I have to be good, but I definitely miss it, like after like a month or two, you just say no. Yeah, I don't even. Develop a good habit or something, and then such that so you know that. Yeah, you should feel good. Yeah. Maybe if you read that first page, that summarized a little bit of what I went over last week. And it's just kind of like what this course is. A little bit will be different, but it's good. Yeah. 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 So here, yep. I started here, and I was looking to learn more about philosophy, and they didn't have any courses right at that time. So this came up, and was another one of the teachers here who was teaching it. So I came, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. Kim? Hey, I almost didn't recognize you from behind. I was like, I don't know whether, did you tie up your hair last week?
Oh, I probably had it back.
Yeah, just, like from the back, it's like I couldn't tell. Yeah.
Is anyone here?
Not right now. No,
Okay.
I was leaving that binder in case there was someone who wasn't here last week. She didn't let me know she's coming, so that
That's
was her
weird.
binder. So I just put it there. And for these two gentlemen, let me give you a warm hug.
Yeah, I'm kind of sweaty.
I know. That's why I said warm hug because I knew that would be. You're not gonna. I know.
I'm late getting here because I had to stop and smell a while.
Oh, that is great. I agree. I was. Yes, I know. Well, I had a request to also go out and play tennis. I'm like, if it wasn't for doing a little extra prep and also month end, I said I would join you. I will join you tomorrow. That is. But it was nice because it's well, it was supposed to rain today, wasn't it? Or there
was
is.
supposed to be kind of crappy in the morning. And
Okay.
It turned out to be cold, but beautiful.
Yes. Yep. And it rained last night, and so the. Oh, was it? Was it a really heavy? I must have. That's good for the garden because I resisted. I was like, I'll wait another day because I heard it was going to rain. And,
It's like the water just comes out.
this water is the same water, but we have this filter. So use this one. Yeah, I know a lot of teachers now. We used to, this little thing, Revitalize. You just to the right is cold, run it a little bit. But yeah, come in here anytime. I think a lot of teachers just got used to closing this door. We used to keep it open, and pre-COVID, we had like a little tea kettle serving tea. We even had cookies, but like after when COVID hit, it was like everything had to be clean, so we kind of closed it up. Didn't have any cups or we use reusable cups, and so now.
COVID is just like some things have been permanently changed.
Yes.
Not for the better.
Not, yeah, I know. But definitely being able to film and people joining online has been a gift. They will.
Oh, totally. I mean, I gotta say, it saved my butt having access to yoga online.
Yes, exactly. So that is one thing that. Okay. How are you guys feeling temperature wise? I know cooling down, you've got nice cutoffs, you're okay? Sounds good, okay, because when, I think it was a warm class, so it was 23 when I came in. Did you just come to the last class with Troy?
At 10.
Oh, at 10, okay, yeah, and then with a lot of people, it heats it up, but okay, good, we can.
People put on blankets, I'm like, I'm so warm, I can't put on blankets.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great. We might have one or two more coming in a little late. Some might be online.
Okay, you need to turn in our homework. I told you.
Yes.
Don't- Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You
All right.
had that. You can give it to me later.
Okay.
Let me just check those in.
And when you said photocopy it, you meant like copy it so that we had a copy of our answers?
No. It was, oh shucks, I forgot, but you don't need it. Just because some pages were copied on both sides. But it won't affect till homework number 5. So I actually what happened is this week I did photocopy extra of number 5. So
Okay.
that those ones I think are on 3 pages. So
Right.
your 3rd page of your homework will be part of the next one. That's when I
Oh,
needed to, like,
see,
they,
in terms of handing in.
yeah, it was
Okay,
single-sided, or I forgot to ask for single-sided.
right.
So I do have a set. You don't need it till a few weeks from now. So let me give it to you then. You can still work off what you have printed up.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I printed the photocopy anyways, just so
Oh.
I knew the answers I gave you.
Oh, okay. No, I'm going to hand it back to you next week. And then the answer key will also give that. Let me start this recording.
And the answer to the last one was that you gave us by email.
Yes, I didn't officially.
What was the answer? You said that already?
Yes, and so, yep. Okay. Well, before we officially begin, a very warm welcome to Kata and Ricardo. Kata told me that mom is Eliana, so I haven't seen her, but please share my hello. Okay, that sounds great. And so Kata and Ricardo, please meet Kim. As I said, there may be more coming later,
Were you
but
online this week?
no.
I was out of town.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
I was. I was just perfect. Yeah, usually I wouldn't be, but I was looking for something on email and like it was in the junk too. For some reason, when people reply, it goes through there, but it was meant to be. But thank you for coming on this beautiful Saturday. I told them last week there is no perfect time, but there's a lot less times available at the studio. And so this happened to be one, and I know it's going to be nice. Most Saturdays, a good thing in the spring is it's still a long day, so you can have much of the sun to enjoy after. And so it was almost, I had mentioned on the sheet we might start with a bit of yoga, but I also mentioned last week, just these first few classes, I might share a little bit more. So I've decided to maybe, if we do a little bit of yoga, be in the middle, might let you guys kind of do what poses you need, but make sure you're comfortable because we'll be sitting for most of it. But I wanted to start with a breathing exercise. So this is where I wanted to check in with you. Would you like, you don't look too tired. So I'm going to do a calming breath, one that will help make it easier to focus. And you probably have done this one before, the alternate nostril breath. So if you need to clean it, help yourself. It's right over there. Yeah, Ricardo, you got one beside you. And traditionally, it's that right hand, you fold the first two fingers down. Ring finger closes one nostril and thumb the other one. Yeah, clear it and keep clearing it if you need. But sit up nice and tall. Just note, it does happen sometimes when we do a few more, you'll drop your head down, you'll turn a little to the right because you're using a right hand. But try to sit up nice and tall because this is trying to open up both channels connected to your nostrils. So if you kind of bend, then you kind of block off one side. All right. So close off your right nostril, or sorry, your left one, and exhale fully through your left. When you finished, inhale slowly through your left nostril. You finish, close that left, exhale slowly through your right. You finished, inhale slowly through your right nostril. Close the right, exhale slowly, fully through your left. So that's one round. You're just going to continue inhaling through one nostril, closing that one, exhaling through the other. Then inhaling through one, that same one you exhaled, and switching back. Remember, your breath affects your mental state, so you're trying to lengthen, slow down the breath. And you're not trying to force it strongly, but think of water through a hose, a steady stream, steady pressure. If one nostril is really clogged and it's really, you'll notice the breath is harder or longer to come out or in. You can visualize, just breathe through both, and but continue. Again, just check that your head isn't tilted a little to the right or dropping down a bit, because that's normal that you're using when you're using your right arm. If your right arm gets a little tired, just use your left hand to support that right elbow. This is a great breath to do any time of the day. You need to just calm your mind down before something stressful you're nervous about. But even before bed, just a way to calm your mind. Probably done almost 10 rounds, like one full round from one nostril back to the same one. See if you can do 5 more rounds. Smooth and steady. And no rush, but when you finish, just palms on your knees, so I'll wait for all of us to finish. Your palms on your knees. Just take nice deep breaths starting from the bottom of your lungs. So feel your belly, lower back expand as you breathe in, tuck in as you exhale. So again, I'd say I do this almost every night before I go to bed. Otherwise, it takes me that much longer to lie in bed just thinking. Remember that saying in yoga, we say breath is life. And by affecting your breath, you're affecting the quality of your life. As you bring your hands into prayer, I'm just going to do what I told Kim that usually starts these classes with kind of a prostration, a little bow. You can do it in standing, but I'll show you can do it in sitting, right? But the intention is to connect your body to your speech and to your mind. So if you want to take a peek, Ricardo or Kata, it's kind of like above is body, speech, and they say your mind's in your heart. So kind of just start body, speech, and mind, and give a little bow to each other. Body, speech, and mind to the teacher, which is me in this way, but really it's the words of the Buddha. So 3 bows. Nice. And then we usually start with, this is kind of like the intention of the class. I'll explain a bit. So I know you turn to the first page, but if you flip to after page 4, you'll have this page which says Mandel on the top, offering the mandala. You see that one? Yeah, look over each other if you're not sure yet. You got it right, Kim. Yeah. Still in that first section. Do you, oh, sorry. Yes. Yours is on the inside of your cover, inside of your binder. Yeah, awesome. And then on the back, there's another one. So these are kind of like the 2 opening prayers. Okay, so what we do is just kind of read it aloud together. If you want to, you can just kind of read it silently if it helps you understand. And so here we go. Offering the mandala. Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the 4 continents, wearing a jewel of the sun and moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratnam Madalakam Niritayami. And then the next one on the back of that page is refuge and the wish. And so we'll read this one out loud too. Refuge and the wish. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. This one usually we read 3 times, so 2 more. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. 1 more. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. By the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. All right. So kind of with time, I'll kind of explain a little bit more what it means, but I did want to start, we'll usually start the class with a little bit of review from the last class. And the great thing is in these classes, I told someone who she had something last minute come up. I said, you know, and I shared in the last class the encouragement to try the homeworks, but I did say, feel free if, you know, everyone's coming from a different place. And if you missed some classes, you can only watch it online, even if you don't have time for that. Please come to and listen to what you can, because I think either this material will kind of attract you and you go, hey, I want to find out more. And so you'll naturally want to do that. Or maybe some will say it's just not the right time right now, and maybe this will just plant a little seed that will sprout a little later. But I am so happy, Kim, you're definitely connecting to it. So this will be great. It was in your homework, but I think one of the things, let me get my notes. There's definitely a lot of the stuff we went over, but I was going to ask if you can tell the two gentlemen the three paths that we were talking about last week. You can look at your homework if you're not sure.
Am I looking?
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
Yes.
'Cause that's
So the three principles.
yes, exactly.
So renunciation,
Mhm.
bodhicitta,
Yes.
is it bodhicitta
It's usually pronounced bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, yep.
and correct view?
Correct view. Okay, wonderful. And it was just kind of like an introduction to it. So over this 10 classes, it'll kind of like this class will explain it a little bit more. So, and part of the homework, and you can flip to like just to the tab. I think it's a third tab. You'll see homework. Take a peek, you'll see. There is usually for every week, if you like to do it, to do the homework questions. And part of homework question, there are some questions, but there's also like a meditation to do. And so, Kim, did you get to do a little of the meditation?
I didn't do the
Okay.
meditation.
Okay,
And I
okay.
didn't memorize the refuting.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's okay.
But I did do the reading.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy the reading?
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of questions. And I
Okay,
realized
okay.
that-
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
It was okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, for after the class, there's usually a reading, kind of not really like it's connected, and sometimes it will be some of it will have been shared in the class, but some of it you won't, and it's a wonderful read to um, the history of the main teacher who created this course. He actually was the first American to be given the Geshe status to reach what monks in Tibet usually have to go through 18 to 20 years to get. And so this first reading was by his teacher. And so great. Well, the meditation actually was meant to ask you, could you read on the back of the homework, maybe Kata, you'll see on the bottom, read out what the question for the meditation was. Yeah, there's a meditation exercise, and it's meant on the second page on the bottom. Yep.
Memorize the first of
Okay, but then the meditation. Yep.
50 minutes per day, read that, and then do analytical meditation on renunciation.
Okay. And so, you said you did some meditation. A lot of times for us beginners, we would start, just trying to come back to your breath.
Right.
Because our mind is so busy. And so it can be usually very simple, but meditation is also a tool where it's meant to help you with your concentration so that you could think about, one topic and keep your mind there. And so the point of actually having you think about renunciation was to think about, one point that we talked about, that one of the most famous sayings that Buddha said was that life is suffering. Life is suffering. You remember kind of talking about that? Do you remember anything I had mentioned and why that is, or anything connected to that?
To the suffering?
Yeah, why? You could say we're living in beautiful Vancouver, one of the best cities in the world, right? We're going into the springtime. We have food, shelter. Let's say you have time to actually study. Like this is what a lot of people on the earth don't have. Clean water, clean air. We have a lot, right? So we can definitely many can say, well, yeah, we are, but compared to a lot of people, we're very, very fortunate. Right? But do you remember anything kind of connected?
I don't.
Okay.
Because part of what happened when I was doing the meeting
Mhm.
was I wanted to get more into, so what does renunciation mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the beginning of the meeting doesn't get
Mm-hmm. Yes, 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 yes. That is true.
So that was part of why it was a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have gone farther.
I am not, but you know, it's almost the point of actually not explaining a lot. I basically gave the definition. They said, uh, you know, to meditate, that uh, the actual word would mean disgusted with life. And I just gave you, yeah, that's the actual definition that they say to have disgust with this life. It's to, you know, and this is where, you know, I've taken a lot of these courses and they didn't share a lot purposely to try to have you kind of go, is that really true? Like, you know, is that really true? Because some will say, you know, my teacher, two teachers who kind of taught me this course actually kind of joked. He said, if the people are not suffering, they might not come to a course like this on a beautiful day. If everything is perfect, they might, you know, like physically, if we're fine, we might not go to yoga. Some of you guys really care and you're very sensitive to your body. So you're like, I do need this, you know, even though everything is very good, you know, this still helps me with my activities, you know, with aging. So I didn't purposely give you too much to see what would come up for you. Because the second path, they say bodhicitta, is to want to reach Buddhahood, to reach enlightenment for the sake of all beings. And the truth is, it's really impossible to want to go to, you know, you could say heaven is like the comparison in Christianity. If you think you are already living in heaven, why would you spend time or effort into doing this, right? So here is where Buddha does share. And he said, well, you know, I can say what I just said, but the truth is, they're you yourself, or you definitely probably know people older than you, even people younger than you who are suffering physically. Right? They have physical sufferings. They've been sick, disease, cancer. I just had my first surgery 2 months ago, and it wasn't fun. There's mental suffering. We live in Vancouver, and you know, I'm so glad now the difference. Well, we see addiction isn't just like they're weak. It's coming from a mental and emotional place that they had to take something to help them with how they feel, what they think. Right? Now, gentlemen, if I should have offered you some paper, because if anything you want to write down, maybe just not on these binders because they were meant for somebody else. But if you want to write down anything, and you don't need to write down anything at all, at least you have some. There is the pen. I'll grab you both pen. Just because for some, it's just a nice way. Someone say, "What the heck did you hear about in the class?" You could write down something. But
And
it.
wouldn't it also be true that, I mean, no matter what life,
Mhm.
there's always challenges.
Always. So that is, I'm going to mention, he kind of groups suffering into 6 big ones, Buddha does, but I'm not even, one of yours is one of them, worded a little differently. But so beyond the people who are suffering physically, mentally, emotionally, the point is that if you're living a blessed life, everything is going well, that eventually we all die. And there's nothing. Think about anything. You can tell me if you can think of something that you can take with you when you die. your loved ones, your body, any possessions. They will all be, they say, torn away from you. You will not be able to bring them along. This was one reason why my tennis partner, he heard me go away for a 2-week retreat. And he knows how much I love to play with him, but he's like, why do you do this? And I go, the one thing I could relate, he's not really interested in Buddhism, but he has 2 kids. He's 55, he's about to retire. So he's actually wanting to retire early. And so he's saving, he's learning to invest. And I said, you want to save for your retirement, right? For your future. And he goes, yeah. And I said, that's why you're doing what you're doing. You're putting aside funds. You could spend it all now and just enjoy, but you're like very, thinking about the future. Well, I said, the Buddhists usually believe in reincarnation, that there is another lifetime, that we've lived countless other lifetimes, so that it's likely we will live another one. So just to be simple, I just told him, I said, well, I believe I will live another one. And the only thing supposedly we can take that comes along with us is our karma, the fruit of our actions, good or bad, that we take along with us. And so there are things that we'll talk about in this class that lead to, they say in Buddhism, there's the 2 actions you can group it into: good actions, bad, and they will lead to a good result or bad. So yeah, just coming back to suffering, this is what Buddha was saying, that we can't take, one of them is that we can't take anything with us. Another is what you're trying to say is life is, I actually think yours is more the 5th one. It says whatever goes up goes down. And yeah, none of these you got to take, but they always say if there's something spoken that by the Buddha, these are not coming from me, but if they are, they don't sit, just sit on it for a while. You might kind of go, no. But they said, sit on it, because that will be one way to see whether it is true. But yeah, what goes up goes down. I love sports too, and I get a little inspired reading about some of the stories in the Sports Illustrated, and it was like 3 stories in this one episode about the Olympics. And they're talking about these Olympians who won gold medal. They're supposedly, this is what they wanted their whole life. And yet, what they felt after? Yeah. It's suddenly I reached what I aimed for. Yeah, there's nothing up. What now? One of the U.S. Olympic gymnastics, she wasn't supposed to win, but Simone Biles kind of got dizzy and she won. She said, I was just told by my coach, just focus on the process, she didn't even imagine herself winning, but and so when it hit, it just was like, and you read the stories, actually, if you don't take out the part where they won the gold medal, it's actually, it's a story of really tough times, like their journey after, and for them to kind of go through therapy and figure out that, like, yeah. So what goes up goes down. We've seen it here at the studio. We used to have 4 studios down to 1, and it wasn't just because of COVID. I'm sure I've asked you guys for an example in your life where things went up, it will go down. I mean, yeah. They say things like that happen because it's kind of like a seed. Everything you plant, it does grow, but at a certain time it passes away. So even the best, the flower will bloom and then it will die, right? So what Buddhism will say, and sometimes I'll interchange yoga because I'm ordering a book where actually the Yoga Sutras has a lot of the same philosophy as Buddhism. Let's say to actually keep your good karma, you have to continue to seed it. Like, if you want a continual garden, when these ones pass away, you hopefully planted for more, that you're not just kind of like, okay, hey, I'm going to collect and that's it, right? It's like when you're planting a harvest, you need to continue to replant every year or every season. So that's two of the sufferings. Third one, they say, is life is uncertain. Life is uncertain. I mean, you think about anything you planned for, you've heard other people plan for. Can they? Can you? You know, yeah, you'll have high hopes for this class. I hope I feel good. It wasn't a waste of my time this afternoon. You won't know whether you like the class at the end of the class. Maybe you'd like the first class and then you don't like this class. I'll say something that triggers you and you'll be like, I don't want to come back. You have friends that are like the best of friends, and then suddenly you must have seen this if you've lived long enough that suddenly things can just end like that. I mean, nobody worried the US wasn't our neighbors and then things like that. Like, so life is uncertain. As much as you plan, you know what the weather will be like. That is a perfect example. You can guess, but you just don't know.
And with that connected also things like expectations, like setting up
Mhm.
expectations.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they'll say whether I've done that. So I've learned to have lower expectations, but it still can completely, change. So another one is that what I just mentioned about us having to be reborn and reborn and reborn. Buddhism say that we have been born so many times, we have each been each other's mother. That you have been my mother, I've been your mother. It's like it's infinite rebirths. And you might go, oh, okay, even if that's true, what is so bad? But the Buddhists do say that the cycle of birth, getting old, getting sick, dying is suffering. It is no matter how well you take care of your health, your life. My mom is just, yeah, she's is doing her very best to take care of her health. She shared that with me, not by just lecturing, but by what she does. And she's 82. There's going to be less Mother's Days for her coming down. 51. I feel like even I have less years than I've had. So there's that cycle of rebirth. There's the pain of getting old and dying. They say actually it's good karma to pass away quickly. That if you know people who have been in a senior's home, just slowly, a slow death is actually supposedly not good karma. Yeah. Yeah. So life is uncertain. You keep being reborn. The pain of going through this life. And this is a good one. This is one that you might not want to sit on. They also say one of the sufferings is that no matter how much you have, you will want more. Yeah. And it might not be in every situation. Some you'll be like, I'm really satisfied with this. Okay. But I'm sure you can think of some examples where, yeah, there's Olympians who get that gold medal, they want more, and that's, I can see I just went away and then I'm like, already kind of like in the middle of vacation. Where else am I gonna go? You're eating something. I'm like, what else am I gonna eat? It's so it's not just you, it's the human condition to want more. You say, okay, if I reach this, I will be happy. And happiness might be there for you're lucky for a little while, and then there will be something that desire comes.
I read an article, the premise of the article was that people that are rich are more cranky,
Yeah.
more cranky and more unkind.
Yeah.
And the study that they did about it was that these people all had lots and lots of money, so supposedly they should be happy.
Mhm.
All that money made them paranoid.
Yeah.
Worried that it would go away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
therefore, that constant worry just turned them into people that were more unkind and suspicious.
Yeah.
I thought that was
I think there's many songs. Money can't buy you love. You can't buy happiness with money. And monies, they sometimes will say, just increases whatever you had. So if you had greed and you weren't rich, you just be greedier when you're richer. If you had stinginess, you'll still have more. If you were worrying, you'll just have more worries because you'll think your fortune disappears. So it just magnifies what is there. It doesn't. It gives you choices, but happiness isn't connected to money, right? So this is where the homework for this week is to now again sit and think about, is life suffering? So I've given you a few more of the answers, and you can pick any one of those, and I'd say pick one that you don't agree with or you're not sure about and go, is that really suffering? And because this is where it has helped, one of the classmates I had that I have to do a little, when I do homework, my homework in my next course now, we have to discuss. And she said when she entered this, she was like really depressed. But it's kind of like going to a yoga class when you're really stiff and uncomfortable. That yoga class will be perfect. It'll be great. If you're feeling great and you come to class, it'll still be a good class, but you feel it more when you don't feel so good. So some of these teachings helps you more you feel like you're in a suffering state. Whereas if everything's fine, you might go, okay, it's interesting. But yeah. So this is why, renunciation is the homework again this week. And you'll hear it is really the preliminary. Like if you don't have that, you cannot do the other two paths, right? And what is this Buddhism? It is, you'll see here this term Buddhahood or enlightenment. It is the path, Buddha says is one of his four Arya truths, his life is suffering. The second one is that there is a cause to this suffering. I'm just going to say it's the word they use is ignorance, though it might mean a little bit more as we discuss it. The third is that there is an end to this suffering. And the fourth is that there is a path to this end, right? And this is what Buddha's teaching is supposedly saying. And that these Buddhas, they have ability to read our mind, to see our future, see our past lives. But what is really important that you note is that they're not, so that word for being able to know everything is omniscient, but they're not omnipotent. Like they're not, like supposedly we might think of God as having all power, they can do anything. They can emanate, you'll hear more about that. They can, show up as anything else, could be something physical, could be a person. They can emanate, but they can't, unfortunately, change your karma, which is why they say Buddhism, the Buddhists help us through their teachings, but they can't change, to reach Buddhahood. I guess the simple thing is you accumulate enough good karma so that you can be a Buddha, right? And in some ways, then you could say it is similar to the path of Christianity, that many people follow it because there's this hope that they're going to go to heaven and not hell. And as last week we discussed, Buddhahood could be considered heaven, and that hell, according to Buddhism, there is actually a cold and hot hells. There's also, do you remember what was above that, Kim? These.
Sorry, say that again.
Well, the three lower realms that you can be reborn in. One is being born in the hell realms, or another one was being reborn as a hungry ghost.
Oh, right.
Yep. That if you ever had this image of, some big-headed spirit with a very skinny throat, you can be reborn as that, and they're constantly hungry, constantly thirsty, but when they finally find food or liquid, they can't ingest it. So they're kind of hungry all the time. And the third lower rebirth is an animal. And they don't mean, I mean, supposedly the animals that we take care of very well here and treat like our babies, you know, people put them in carriages, they have taxis, hotels, spas, everything, right? Those are probably, they have the best rebirths out of all the animals, but a lot of them are, yeah, yeah, exactly. They are one of the lucky ones. But yeah, many are in parts of the world are beaten, you know, they're just bred to be slaughtered. And as I said, they said in the ocean, there's majority of the animals are living in such darkness that they're in fear all the time of just being eaten by a bigger fish. So
So Logan, so the three in the lower realm.
Yep.
The first one is hell.
the hell realms,
the
you can be,
hell realm,
yeah, there, that's the lowest one.
Right,
And then the hungry ghosts,
right.
and then the animals. Yeah.
So the hell realm, what is that? Look for.
Well, that one I'm going to say for another course because there's actually they describe it in full detail. It's and what I'll send you is kind of like all these 15 courses, all the materials are there. You don't have to, you know, even come to the class if you want to, like, I want to go to that spot. And unfortunately, you know, it just says the course, but on the first few pages, I'll tell you what it covers in each one. So it goes through, describes in detail the 8 hot hells, and then there's 8 cold hells, and depending on what you've done, you know, then you might enter one of those hells and be there until you burn off your bad karma. Yeah. So there is a lot of, I want to make sure I stay on track so we can finish at 4:30. So this was one thing I didn't ask, and I'm, you know, just for time wise, they'll say one thing we all supposedly have in common. And you can think of us in class, think of those in the city, and they'll say everyone in the planet, is that we all want to be happy and to avoid suffering. Would be something that you can consider, yeah, that we are, yeah, at base want those two things. And this is what Buddhahood is supposed to lead us to, maybe more permanent happiness. As though there is happiness, there are joys in this life as a human, but they don't last. Right? So that is what I wanted to share. And then I will share this next point. You know, I mentioned about life is suffering, but this other point is also a really important one. And this can be an immediate way that you can kind of go, okay, I can, you know, some of this is theory and thoughts, but some things, if you can, and remembering that is good because it might kind of say, okay, I don't really want to go to class, but I want to hear what else it offers, you know. But this is the analogy of the pen, which some of you might have heard about. It's, I'll just preface by saying it's very simple, and but teachers say a lot of stuff in Buddhism is very simple, but to actually have it as part of your mind stream, it needs to be repeated many, many times. Right? So yeah, this is a pen. It's by Roland Chung. I don't know how I got it, but his name is on it to advertise whatever he does. He didn't do a good job of that, but I believe you all see that it's a pen, right? Click, click. Right? Not trying to trick you or anything, but it's a pen. Now, if your cat saw it, what do you think your cat will see it as?
Toy.
Toy. Definitely not a pen. Baby. Yeah, or another toy too, right? Something to grab and play with. So, I mean, if there's someone from, let's say, a jungle in Brazil, you know, you never saw a pen, maybe they would see this as a what? Yeah, a weapon or tool. Yeah, it could be completely seen like that. So this is where this simple thought is that when you look at it, you might go, oh, the definition kind of comes from the pen. But these just 3 other examples we shared with you shows that it isn't. because it could be the same pen, but different beings or different people see it differently. So what Buddhism will say is that it's not like things that are outside of you are not what they call self-existent. They don't exist with this kind of like imaginary definition flashing from within. Instead, what they say is that our mind places the definition on this. That actually what you're really seeing, your mind is going, picking up, when you see a pen, super fast picking up, okay, top edge, bottom edge, side to side. You can't really see the whole thing. You can only pick up certain things. You pick up a shape, and then suddenly you place label on it. Obviously, I help by saying pen, but I will sketch you a little picture. It's going to be a little hard a bit. This is supposed to be an object. Take a guess on what it is. It's supposed to be a full, complete circle. Oh, with something here. Guess whatever comes to mind. An eyeball. Okay. Take a guess. What do you? Yeah.
Cup.
Oh, you see a cup. What do you see? Okay. I was going to almost try not, it was getting a little wiggly. I was going to say, you could say a sperm. What is amazing is that actually this was in the book, and it said, why do you say it was a cup? Yeah, that this picture, they showed this as an example of this pen. But they said, if you look at it from the side, it could be this, right? A cup, except that you were just looking down at it. But all of you did have something in your mind, place a guess on what this is. Now, if supposedly Kata didn't guess this, I draw this, maybe a better picture, you'd go, oh yeah, these are both cups. Right? So this is what Buddhism is. This is a definition of emptiness. And if you ask, I would say 10 people on the street what karma is, I would guess most people could tell you it's cause and effect. Some action leads to some result. That has been shared quite a bit, and I think a lot of people do know it. Some people, if they don't, that's fine. But this is the other side of the coin. They say that if Buddhism talks about karma, the side that isn't talked about as much. It is if you read a book about Dalai Lama, he might say the word emptiness. And depending on how it's written, it might be described, but it isn't definitely not as well known. It was completely new to me hearing this story of the pen and seeing this example. To have Buddhists say that we actually are placing our projection of something on everything we see. And it's almost like the example that I really like. It's almost like we're living what we see from our eyes and ears and nose as you're smelling is like it's a movie. And this movie we're watching, like if you think of a movie, the old time movies that come on a film, right? So that film obviously was created in the past. Like when you go to a movie theater to watch a movie, it's not like it's a live movie. It would, there's reality shows supposedly are live or streaming, but it's not. This was filmed, and then was edited to make and then they put on the projector, and then we watch it. And a great movie, you might get sucked in and think this is real for parts of the time. So our mind supposedly works like 64 projections a second. So that as you see me, my mouth moving, it's actually processing a lot of data really, really fast. And so what you're doing, what is being projected supposedly is from our past karma. That you had the karma to understand a pen, and that's why you see it as a pen. Had the karma to see this as a cup. If you see this again, and I show this next week, you probably will go, oh, yeah, that could be a cup, or it could be a balloon. It could be, what did you say, Ricardo? Pardon? An eye, yeah, it definitely could be an eye, so where, when this is first taught as that, I remember our partner's boyfriend, who was coming to his first class, at the end of the night, he told Georgina, I said, oh, like, I mean, yeah, they call this emptiness, but it's another way of saying that saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Heard that, right? Beauty's in the, yeah, whatever, so we can all watch the same movie, and we could all have different opinions about it. And we kind of go, okay, yeah, that's whatever. But that is another way of saying this. So what is, maybe you kind of go, okay, I can accept that. And if you don't, I'd say just sit on it. Seeing it on an object might feel like, okay, you look at any object, is that really a water bottle? Maybe it could be a vase, it could be a weapon too. Make water bottles look like different things, right? But this is where they'll say, how can this help you in your life? Is usually objects may not trigger us, but people do. So I'll start with me, like you guys are right now in this class. And they actually say, if there's 3 of you and 1 of me, there's actually 3 of me right now. And each one is your projection of me, right? I'm saying the same thing, but you might go, what up? I'm not going to fill it in. You fill it in yourself. So this is where it can come from you. And now I'll say, take it to the next step of think of someone who triggers you, who stresses you out, who bothers you, And you might kind of go, no, it's self-existent. This person is a real pain in the ass, a real idiot. I don't know, whatever you want to call them. You'll say, it's like, they're that. I know. I can give you all the reasons why they're like that, And it is true. That's what you see. But, we'll use this example as the person. They might be someone else who doesn't see them that way. Their partner, their parent, their best friend might love them while you just detest them. So Geshe Michael Roach, who did this course, he had his Lama told him to work in the diamond business to practice what he learned and not just have theory to put into practice. And what he noticed was he would notice, unfortunately, his boss would yell at him when he makes mistakes. And as much as he's a Buddhist and as much as he can kind of like say, okay, I'm not going to take it personally. He's just yelling because of the mistake. The fact is his karma was, it wasn't good. He didn't like it. And that's normal, right? If I yell at you for not doing your homework, coming in late, like really aggressively, it might be natural for you to, feel really hurt. Maybe you want to lash back with anger, right? So, in his example, he said, I got called into his office. I'd made a mistake on an order, lost 6 digits, 100 grand. And he was getting reamed out, and he's thinking, my boss didn't know how hard I tried, all the good things I did. And, in his mind, he's, but on the other side of the table is the boss's wife. And the boss is seeing this. The boss's wife is seeing the same situation and going, good, give it to him. Yeah, honey, he's losing our company money. So she sees this and thinks this is a good thing. He needs to be taught a lesson, So this is an example which might make sense to you that, this situation where you get put down or, talked down to or yelled at as something, but the person who's yelling at you might go back home and tell their partner and family what happened, and they'll be like, good job. You needed to let Kata know what it did was wrong, you know? So yeah, this is where if you can then see the situations that you're in that are uncomfortable as definitely saying it is true, you know, you can interpret it somehow differently, but the truth is you didn't like it at that time. And Buddhism will say, you know, if you lashed back, if you yell back, what you did is you just planted that seed of being yelled at. You planted it firmly into the fertile soil, so that with time, as that grows, then that you'll get that again. And I've definitely got that with my wife. You know, she'd yell at me, and you know, on my good days, I could laugh it off, or I could just bear it. And other days, it just was like boxing gloves off. No, actually not physically, but you know, with a word, you know, like you made the same stupid mistake too, and here, let me tell you, and I planted that karma, and I got it back. It'd be almost like I kind of say right now, if you're gardening, you see dandelions, you know, it turned white. It's kind of like if something bad happens to me and I react the same way, I basically went and just stuck those little pollen grains in the soil and watered them and like grow, grow, grow. Because karma, they say, actually grows, is more powerful if the energy behind it is strong. So, you know, you just say you're doing some good, you know, just say you're giving money, you know, $5. And you could give it at the grocery store when they say, oh, sir, you know, we're doing a thing for children's charity. Can you add $5? And you're like, oh, don't bother me. But okay, fine. I don't want to be embarrassed and not give. I'll give $5. Or if you went, um, so happy to hear my son went to the Lapu Lapu Memorial last night. And he's like, oh, there's a raffle. And he's like, now he has quite a few Filipino friends who are in that area. So he's kind of giving I feel with a little feelings behind it, you know, that he hopes that his little donation will help. So that is a different intention of that. And so the stronger it is, the more you're giving it extra fertilizer, extra energy to grow. So, you know, this is why, in terms of being born as a human, supposedly it's really special, really rare, because there are higher beings, higher rebirths than us. But it's more common that we would be reborn in the lower three based on the karma that we've done. And it isn't just actions, karma is also your thoughts. So you could do nothing, but if I'm like, effing wife, you know, you yell at me, if I had that same thought with a lot of intensity, that is karma too. I don't actually have to push her or like yell at her, you know. That would be more karma. It's physical, but the thought behind it, you know, can be that. And so Buddhists will say we do many good things, but we don't do it with the same intensity as bad things that we do. So there's a lot more that may lead us to a lower rebirth. So this is why one of the homework questions was like, people want to reach Buddhahood for different reasons. The East, being reborn is something that they've accepted. You know, when they're born, parents tell them they all believe in that. So their first fear is like, I don't want to be reborn as a hell being, as a hungry ghost or as an animal, right? Whereas for us, this might be like new info for you. Like, really? I never even thought, or I want to be born as a cat. I want to be born as my dog. You know, why not? They have a great life. But for a lot in the East, that's what they want to avoid. And some higher up want to reach Buddhahood for themselves. They're like, I'm suffering in this life, so I would like to not suffer. But the highest one is to reach enlightenment so that we can help others. And that is the path that this teaching is coming from. You'll hear it repeated over and over, and that's bodhicitta, the second path. Okay, so that is one thing I wanted to share, because that is something that you can apply. So now I'll kind of share. Okay. 3 o'clock. So I'm gonna have to move through a bit of the next info a little bit quicker. Now, as I'm kind of describing, this path is meant to help us reach Buddhahood. They say that without doing these 3 principal paths, if you just say, yeah, that sounds like a great place to go, I'll learn more about it, I'll do some of the practices. One thing they suggested, if you want to build your renunciation, is you can think about it, and definitely the meditation is doing something about it. But one thing that was suggested is like 3 times a day to kind of see if you can, during the day, think about why would you not, what is the problems with this life? And I can say, yeah, just think about it. And you might go, okay, but I keep this little book. And if you look inside that course, there is one link called the book. And it's telling you how to use a little tracking system to kind of help you try to remember what is easy to forget. And so it's meant to, when I heard about it, I had just received my Bodhisattva vows, and I was supposed to remember these vows. So I kind of like every 2.5 hours, kind of write down a vow to try to remember it. And what I realized is that they say this idea about emptiness, about the pen, how things, we only see it from our karma, past karma, is something that is easy to forget. You walk out the door, maybe you'll see somebody do something you don't like, and you'll be like, what an idiot. It just might be as quick as that. And this is the one part I underlined myself, is they say, maybe you might go, okay, I'll work on that. I'll see the person, who upsets me as kind of coming from me. But they're saying, consider even the things you do like, the people you do like. That you might kind of go, yeah, look at, and I love my wife too. And I would say, look how beautiful she is, and how loving and generous she is. Well, you guys might go, if after you met her a little while, you might go, not really. I don't see that. I see, her stinginess. I see her pettiness. I see her, and it is true. Sometimes we do also, if you see something you love, your hobby that you like, volleyball, some guys might go, yeah, I love it. And then other people like, yeah, it's not for me. I don't like the sand sticking on my skin in the summer. It's hot out there. And, whatever you like, there might be people who don't like it either. And so it's to even see the other side of it. But anyway, this book, to help me remember it, so every 2.5 hours, I would kind of look back and go, is there something that I kind of just, again, assumed existed out there, or that I kind of blamed on something else? Like here's a good example. The 2.5 hours before 12, I was feeling a little bit nervous. And I kind of blamed it on having to teach this class, which was odd. I mean, actually, which is normal. I haven't shared how, just simply being in front of people usually makes me nervous sharing it. But last week I didn't feel it. So I was not expecting it. But this week I was like, got up and I did prep. I didn't prep as much as the first week, but I kind of did. And I'm like, geez, I feel like I'm not digesting my breakfast so well. And I was kind of wanting to blame, it's like having, this class, but it's my karma. And it's good to remember, because if there's anything about this emptiness, that hopefully you'll see that this thought is giving you the responsibility for your life. Because it's easy to blame everyone and everything. I mean, you can blame things on the war, blame things on Trump, things on inflation, on the cost of living in Vancouver, housing. You can blame a lot of things on a lot of people and things. What does that do? It leaves you a little powerless, right? It feels like you have no control. But whether or not you accept this, hopefully you'll see that, a thought process where you kind of go, everything that happens, good or bad, has come from your past karma, as being, okay, I do have power. That the Buddhists will say, okay, if I'm getting yelled at a lot from my wife, someone doing the dumbest things, I don't know why I don't forget to close the fridge door or close the front door, but it just seems like I don't remember. She'll put a post-it note, I'll still forget. I don't like getting yelled at from her, especially when I'm a little bit tired. I understand yelling at her will actually just promote it and make it more. Thing that I need to do to stop it, Buddhism will say, is like, don't react. And remember that this bad karma you're receiving is things that you've done, that I've yelled at people in the past, and which I have. I've yelled at my son, and yes, I've yelled at my wife, and or it could be something from the past life that I did. But the best way is then to do the opposite, to do the opposite. And there's that saying I had learned in other self-help workshops before Buddhism, is like, whatever you want, give. This was talking about relationships. If you want love, more love in your relationship, then you have to give love. If you want more money in your life, then you have to give money, not give other things. But whatever you're wanting, and this is like karma, cause and effect. Some of you are wanting more health, energy. That's why you're coming to do yoga. You're trying to do the same thing. Plant the seeds for your own health. But they would say, maybe if you did want to be healthy, you help someone else with their health, not just help yourself. And you might help, listen to some others, or go out with someone who might need a little bit of help with their health. So whatever you want, you help, you be the source of, you plant the seed for. Right?
So Hogan,
Mhm.
how does that
The solutions.
Yeah, like if these are all part of this concept,
Mm-hmm.
how does it get that overall concept? How does it get labeled as emptiness?
The word emptiness, you could define as saying, really means that things are not self-existent. That is kind of what the term emptiness is. And that it is maybe describing what that means is what I'm trying to say, or how is that, E equals MC squared is a formula, but what did we do to apply that theory or this definition to physics? So this emptiness, nothing out there exists from outside. It exists from our mind projecting onto it. So this is where, if that is true, then you need to stop doing the things that you don't like that are happening to you. That you need to plant the seeds of opposite. And this is what you can do for things in your life. But to reach Buddhahood, this is why it wasn't meant for us to have, just more wealth and health and happiness in this life. It was saying to reach Buddhahood, you can imagine we would need to accumulate a lot of good karma, to be a Buddha, right? And so, yeah, one of the homework questions is to say, are the three principal paths necessary to be a Buddha? Like, are these the causes to be that? And definitely, the answer is yes. That if you do not renunciate, you do not consider, that life is suffering, that you do not pursue Buddhahood with this intention of helping other beings once you reach there, and that you do not, the third one of correct view is actually seeing things as being empty. That if you do not come from that, you won't reach Buddhahood. I grew up playing video games. Did any of you play Mario Brothers? It's a really simple game, right? And so you're trying to reach the end of the journey, but along the way, getting those coins gives you an extra life. Different things give you special powers. So I kind of go like the karma to reach the end requires you to collect a lot of coins, a lot of karma, So this is where they will say, this was really interesting because I didn't, Kata and Ricardo, I had taken this course, not in this order, and there were times where I kind of was trying to do the homework, and obviously there's a lot of info. I didn't remember all of it, but getting to teach this now, I got to review it. And the one point that they said is that you could do good, take care of your cat, take care of your mom, take care of your friends. But if you don't do it with that understanding of these three principal paths, that good deed, that good karma won't necessarily lead you to Buddhahood. It will lead you to a good result. Taking care of your cat might mean later on you're taking care of, taking care of your mom is really good karma. They say karma done with emotion or done to higher objects, which will say like to the Buddha, to I lost the word for, it's not the church, but where do Buddhists practice? Sometimes in a temple? Temple, yeah, they usually temple, if you're making a donation, they said you get more good karma if you donate it to the temple instead of just someone on the street. Unfortunately, they say you get more karma giving to a human than to giving to an animal. So the rank of objects boosts your karma. Okay. So definitely doing karma with now this understanding of the three principal paths gives a supercharge to your, I guess it's kind of PC Optimum. You buy certain things, it gives you 10 times the points. It is doing now your virtue with this thought in mind, oh, I'm doing it, knowing that it is going to help me reach enlightenment, actually does do that. It puts the intention behind it, gives it a boost. So it is important. So there is this path, like you're supposedly on the sutra path, the open path. And after that, there is Tantra, the secret teachings. And I'm going to be sharing some of them just like my teacher shared with me. But they said that it doesn't really work even if you get the initiation, if you don't have the three principal paths. So that's going to be another of the homework questions. Like, is these three principal paths required for Tantra? And it is. They say you could get I don't know what the whole ceremony is, but you get this ceremony and then it's not going to shift you if you haven't you have no renunciation, no bodhicitta, you have you disagree with, this emptiness teaching. So definitely is required. Okay, so the next little bit, I'm going to ask you on your paper, it's going to give you, we're going to describe a little bit more about reaching Buddhahood. And so you just need to, on your piece of paper, maybe have 3 columns so that, and I won't say draw a table now because some things you might need to write 2 or 3 lines, some things will be just 1 point, but for time's sake, I'm not going to write everything on the board. I'll say it, but at least kind of just divide up your page into 3 so that this will be like a heading, like what is 2 main causes for Buddhahood? And then I'll tell you, and then you can fill it in one box and then fill in the other. And then basically there'll be a lot for these 2, and these will be the headings, 2 main causes. Okay. So 2 main causes of Buddhahood. This one is, I kind of have shared already. You heard that it's 3 principal paths, right? But they say renunciation is like the preliminary. Like out of the 3, if you don't have the base one, as they say, why would you want to help others when you don't even think you need help at all? You're like, there's no suffering in this life. This life is awesome. I have this, and this. And yeah, I accept I'm going to die. I'm going to accept I'm in pain. I think I accepted all those things that I mentioned before I took this. I just thought, well, I just will see it as something else, seeing as part of life. But they're saying this doesn't have to be. So on the 2 main causes, one is bodhicitta. For Ricardo Kata, it's Bodhi, which actually is another way of saying Buddha, and Chitta, Chitta. So that's a second one. But they use, in some Buddhism, they have synonyms. So one of the words they use for bodhicitta is method. And the third one was correct view, right? Kind of the 2 correct views that basically are part of Buddhism is karma, that you believe there's cause and effect, that there is reincarnation, and the other one is this idea of emptiness, right? Those are the 2 main things. But so the other one is the 3rd principal path, correct view, or you could write down /wisdom, right? The correct view of emptiness. Okay. And so they say these are the 2 main causes. They're kind of like the 2 wings of a bird. Without one of them, a bird can't fly. You need both, right? So yeah. Is wisdom. Yep. Correct view of emptiness. So we can. All right. So now, if you have these 2, what happens when you do reach Buddhahood? Well, there is, for method, you get they'll say Buddha has different parts. And one of it is its body, the same way we have a body, but their body isn't like our physical body. It's a body of light. And it might look like that. I mean, these images of Buddha are supposedly what some enlightened beings have seen Buddha to be. In different traditions, you'll see them a little different. But the body, the form of the body is called Rupa Kaya, Rupakaya, Rupa Kaya. Yeah. And so just note that. And the other part of the Buddha would be kind of the other part of us. We are body, but also our mind. And so the mind part of the Buddha would be the Dharma Kaya. Kaya is the body, so Dharma, Dharma. That word Dharma you will also hear used. It's in our prayers to mean, the written material of the Buddha. So it is kind of connected because it is Dharma is connected to intellect also. This is the mind, knowledge. All right. So what it does refer to, I'll come back to the Rupakaya. Rupakaya is part of bodhicitta. It would be doing good things towards others. Doing good things towards others will help you achieve that Rupakaya. But gaining understanding, like you're coming to class, if you do any readings later on, reading about Buddhism, that's gaining knowledge. And that's that's required to get the Dharmakaya. All right. Okay. So Now, there are main causes of the Buddha, but there's also obstacles. So I think it kind of makes sense. Obstacle for having a body of the Buddha, which is doing good to others, would be having bad thoughts about others. You know, some of the vows that you're trying to not do is covet, you know, the wish for what others have, or having bad ill will, having bad thoughts about others, not just because you're jealous, but because you're upset at them, right? So that is an obstacle to your Rupakaya. And to be obstacle to the Dharmakaya is obstacles to learning. Remember last week we talked about the pot, problems with the pot, which is related to learning. And one of the analogies they said is having the pot closed, right? Remember what that one was about? Yeah, check. Not learning. I would say, you know, it also makes sense if you see a pot closed, and a pot like that if you are not the cannabis pot, but you know, if you see a pot closed, you know, it's not open, right? So if you come in here with your thoughts and you're like, I'm not going to open my mind to what Buddhism is about, I mean, what a waste of time to come in, right? You hope that you'll be a little bit open to it. You can not keep it in your head, but at least be open to it. Right? Okay.
Related to thoughts, right?
Well,
Thoughts, you said it's like obstacle.
yeah, the Rupakaya, the obstacle would be like bad thoughts towards others. But
Control those.
you're right. See, this is a good, I'm glad you're kind of asking, because this is an example of how, yeah, they come. It is true. And if you sit in meditation, you'll notice your karma like that. You know, you can't almost kind of control. If I say some word to you now, Nazi, you can choose what your thought is about that. If I say to you, Gandhi, it's almost like the immediate reaction is not something you choose. The thoughts that come into your head are not something you really can choose. What you can choose is your reaction to it. Whereas if I say Nazi, and then you go, what an idiot, you know, why does he say that? You know, then you kind of judge me, and then you kind of like are putting what you chose is your response, right? And this is where I get yelled at. I could tell you, oh, you know, I learned in many workshops trying to take it personally, but I'll tell you, it hurt. To be honest, it just hurts every time someone yells at me. You know, my sons are yelling. You guys could yell at me, and I go, ouch. Now, I might pretend it doesn't. I might not show it, but if I'm honest, it does. And yeah, so I'll be nervous. I teach my next yoga class at the beginning. You ask many teachers, they will feel the same. And it's not like they choose to. And unfortunately, that's a karma that seems to have come up from maybe we made other people nervous in the past. And until I guess this emptiness is like when you have something bad happen and you realize, okay, this is from my past. And you just have some things you just have to endure. You know, some people are sick. They'll try every different way, acupuncture, medicine, physio, like they'll try everything, yoga. For some people, it works. Some people, it doesn't work. This is where they'll say Buddhism is like, well, yeah, unfortunately, the way to explain it is just that it's the karma. They have to suffer through it, you know? And so, yeah, now I take suffering differently. Like when I was sick, I used to be like, oh, was it like the plane, or did I pick up a germ, or did I eat something? I'll blame it on something outside. And I'm like, it could have been the cause for that. My wife didn't get it. She's lying beside me every night. We didn't have anything. I tried many things to help, but didn't seem to help. So I thought, you know what, I'm probably burning off bad karma about to teach this. So I'm just going to have to endure it. But I recognize that at a certain point, if I'm throwing up, I can't be here. So I waited the last minute to tell you guys, right? So, okay, the obstacles. So there is another point that they say, you'll hear this term a lot, Buddha nature. Oh, okay. So the intention of these classes of Buddhism is for us to have these two bodies of Buddha, by practicing bodhicitta, by learning knowledge that will help us understand this. But that's what Geshe Michael Roach says. And now you'll hear this term Buddha nature. And I would agree that if someone said, well, the definition is that within you, there's a Buddha. And the way to be a Buddha is to kind of just get rid of all the other stuff, and then that Buddha nature will be you. And it kind of made sense. I believed in the soul before, that there's this eternal, I believe in reincarnation, not the way Buddhism does, but I just believe that in rebirth. And I thought, oh yeah, this explanation of the soul that goes from life to life, that we learn different things in different lives made sense to me. So some people believe that their soul, deep within, something you can't see, is your Buddha. Then Buddha nature makes sense, that we just got to get rid of all the other stuff, crap, and that's how we can all become Buddhas. But actually, that is not what Buddhism says it is. That they say the emptiness, if they believe in emptiness, is that for you to see yourself as Buddha means that you would do enough, you collect enough coins in this life or future lives, that you have so much karma that suddenly your projection, your movie is showing that you are a Buddha. You look at your hand and you don't just see your hand, you see a Buddha's hand. And it could look like anything. They say Buddha doesn't have to look like the statues you see, but you could pass your finger through your hand and it's a light body, that you look at other people and you don't see just their human form, you see other Buddhas, and that is what they say about being reborn as an animal. It's just that you might die, you go into this bardo 49 days, and then if you're reborn as an animal, suddenly you look at your hands and it's a paw. You look at your nose as much as you can, you see a snout. You can't talk. It's your whole being is from that place. And so that, if you believe in emptiness, comes from the accumulation, a lot of karma, so that you see everything through the lens of a Buddha. Why you see the things, the way you see yourself, is because that was your karma. And so to be born as a human, to be in a place where Buddhism, you're not, you're allowed to practice, allowed to learn, is amazing karma. You're supposedly, if you're really blessed, you're in the top, you may not be top 5% monetary wise, but spiritually, you have a lot of karma to be able to come to teaching, to a Buddhist teaching, because not everyone will be attracted, will have obstacles to get them here. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we should finish. Okay, that is the last point. I'm supposed to finish at 4:15. We do a closing prayer. That the memorization is actually this prayer on the back of the binder. So Ricardo and Kata, it's that closing prayer. Like you have to almost close the binder. I think I put it on the back of the binder, on the outside of it. Right. Yeah. So this is meant to, dedicate the karma that you accumulated from this class towards, not just something beneficial in this life, but towards your Buddhahood. So that's why we'll always kind of start and end class with the opening prayer. So memorizing this will be good, because after a few classes, you might be able to say it with your eyes closed. All right. So as it said, let's turn to that. Okay, dedication of the goodness of a deed. So we just have to read it once. By the goodness of what I've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. All right, wonderful. So thank you. And I will say, Ricardo and Kata, if you guys think you want to take the class, then that's your binder. If you kind of want to think about it, I'd say just leave the binder. I'm going to send you a link to the files. But the great thing is that then, yeah, if that is your gift for the class, you still don't means you have to come to every class. If you're busy, I will send the recording. You don't even have to read that. This is, you know, thing I loved about Buddhism when I learned it wasn't like there is no pressure. We're not here to try to save your life. You know, so it's up to you to, if you want to. And so everything is optional, but this tool of having you do the reading, do the homework, is so that you can learn it more deeply. So that is what that is offered for. I'm going to turn off the recording. Next week, they have something booked here. So I am going to record the class. I'm actually going to teach the class from home on Zoom, and I'll send you the link so you guys can connect. And if you can't make it, I'll send you the recording to hold this recorded. Okay. Last week it didn't record, but I recorded on my phone, so it's just an audio file that I'll send you from